And one of the things that came out of the trip in India was that I'm really interested in psychology. I'm really interested in what makes people tick. And I really wanted to help people. And it seemed I spent a good few months working part-time and spending time thinking about what career I wanted to do, having lots of conversations, doing courses and really investigating. And it all really came back together and pointed towards career coaching.
Welcome to Jane Jackson Careers, a podcast that takes your career to the next level. Here's your host, Jane Jackson, author of Amazon Careers bestseller, Navigating Career Crossroads.
Well, hello and welcome back to my career podcast where I interview fascinating professionals who've made amazing career changes. Now, about 7 years ago, I was approached by a lovely young lady, Jo Green, who had just moved from the UK to Australia and was exploring a new career direction after a successful career in market research. I was really blessed that she chose me as her career coach to guide her towards a new career in the not-for-profit sector, and over the years, I've just really enjoyed following her amazing progress, and I'm so proud of everything that she's achieved. Now, she's made another huge career pivot, and I'm delighted to have her on the show to share her career transition experiences and her exciting new business. Now, before I welcome her to the show, here's a quick bio of her background. So, Jo Green moved from working in market research in the not-for-profit world 7 years ago, which coincided with her move from the UK to Australia. Wanting to make a difference and have a positive impact on the world, she spent 7 years working for 3 well-known Australian charities in project management, marketing, and fundraising. The highlight of this time was traveling to the favelas of Brazil, a beautiful but remote island in Fiji, and a very rural community in Malawi to make documentary films. Now, early in 2016, Jo decided she wanted to help other people to find their purpose and be productive in their work too. And after retraining as a coach, she set up her coaching business, Jo Green Coaching. And Jo coaches people who are feeling stuck and are questioning their current job or career path and want to make a career change. She's just been to the UK to become accredited in a very well-researched and successful career change program called Firework. And she's really passionate about the not-for-profit space and coaches people who run small, for-purpose businesses such as social enterprises. And she's just finished a course in sustainability and leadership, and she sits on the board for a refugee NGO that's based in Melbourne. I'm exhausted just reading this. This is amazing. There's so much that Jo has done. So welcome to the show, Jo.
Thanks, Jane. It's lovely to chat to you today. Thanks for the wonderful intro.
Well, over the past 7 years since I've known you, you've done so many things. You've had multiple transitions, and now you're transitioning into becoming a career coach, which is fantastic because honestly, I mean, you know how much I love career coaching. It's such a rewarding role. And combining that with your in-depth not-for-profit experience as well and making a difference in other people's lives, I'm really impressed. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Jane.
So how about to kick us off, Jo? Let's find out about the young Jo Green. And when you were a little girl, what kind of career aspirations did you have?
Oh, when I was probably about 10, I really wanted to be a policewoman because I was obsessed with the TV show The Bill. I recorded it every single time it was on and wouldn't sit more than about a metre away from the screen watching it. And then I met an actual policewoman and realised her job was much more scary than The Bill was in reality, and quickly decided that that wasn't going to be where I headed. I think that was kind of the beginning of lots of different failed career ideas for many years, that I'd seemed to come up with all these different ideas and then find a reason why it wasn't quite right for me, which seemed to kind of continue after university and through working life of always struggling to feel like I found quite the right career for me.
And so how did you get into market research, which is, well, the career path that you were taking when I first met you and you moved to Australia?
I kind of fell out of uni into a kind of simple admin type job with a relocation company, which was more through a contact than I had than anything else because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then started a bit of a think around my skills and what I wanted to do at that point. So market research really fitted well with the fact that I'm very analytical. I really like exploring and understanding more about the world. So it fitted quite nicely with my kind of interests and skills at that point. And it was really interesting. I had a job in London working for a big media company looking at the readers of their newspapers and their websites. And it was fascinating learning about the different stereotypes of people and what that meant about the media they consumed and things. So I felt like I found a bit of a niche in London in market research, and it definitely had some positives for me. But moving to Australia, I never quite found a job that was kind of similar in that area. I didn't realise quite how niche I'd gone in London until I moved here. And that's when I met you, Jane, and was exploring what next at that point.
What prompted your move from London to Sydney?
Well, I first came to Australia when I was 18. I lived in New Zealand in my gap year and came to Sydney for Christmas and loved it and said, I'm going to go back there one day, and went back to England and did university and worked in London for 4 years. And that little nugget of wanting to come back and live over here was still in my mind. I guess it got to the point when it was a bit of now or never. And I was quite lucky visa-wise that I have an uncle over here who could help me to get permanent residency straight away. So it was a bit of a, well, why not? I'll just go and see what happens. And I didn't really have a plan of how long I'd stay out here. And now, 8 years later, I think I'm stuck.
It's amazing how quickly the time goes by. I mean,
yes.
I was thinking back to when I first met you, and I thought, it's about 5 years ago. And then last week when we were speaking, no, Jane, it's 7 years. So yeah, it just goes by so fast. And I remember when we had our first few coaching sessions, you were thinking, now what next? What else can I do? And at that time, you were definitely looking for something that had a lot more meaning. So let's hear all about, let you tell the story of how you got into the not-for-profit sector, and what was it that, was that little spark that made you think about that as a new direction?
Well, I think there was a bit of an epiphany moment in my market research job. I was in a focus group for a very well-known wine company I probably shouldn't mention the name of, and I suddenly realised I didn't really care what colour went on their new wine bottle, and it all seemed so pointless suddenly in that moment. And I realised I wanted to do something that meant more to me and meant more to the world. And I remember doing an exercise with you, which was, I think it was called Career Anchors or something, and it very much looked at your motivations in work, and that really helped me to flesh out that was exactly the point. I needed to do something that had some kind of impact, whether that was in society or with people. It just needed to mean more to me. And so obviously had coaching with you, which was excellent and really helped me to unpack all of that. And it came quite obvious at that point that looking at the non-for-profit sector was going to give me that sense of meaning. And actually, I guess I was quite lucky that I had lots of project management and marketing skills. And it was really a sideways move. The first job that I got was a contract for 6 months with Clean Up Australia with a wonderful English manager who that's actually had 3 English managers in the non-for-profit industry. So there was obviously a connection there. And I think getting that 6-month contract really got me my in, because then I had that experience on my CV. It wasn't the perfect job. It wasn't somewhere that I would wanted to do for more than 6 months. It was perfect that it gave me that entry and that taste of what it was like to work in the non-for-profit sector.
Yeah, it's quite difficult, isn't it, just to get your foot in the door initially. So having that 6-month contract was a really good way to get in that area. So what would you say, getting into the not-for-profit sector, say if there was someone who hadn't had experience in that area, such as, yourself back in those days, and then if they wanted to get into the not-for-profit sector for a career path, not just on a voluntary basis, what would you recommend that they do?
Well, I think I've sat the other side of the table now and interviewed for staff members when I was a manager in the last charity I worked at. And I think it was seeing that the person really did want to make that move. So actually having some kind of volunteering experience that shows that that's something you've not suddenly just thought of to make that move, but you actually really want to dedicate your time to that. And at the moment, you're willing to do that without getting paid, and you're willing to give up your time and go and do that outside of work. I think that proves your passion and your interest in that area, and that you're willing to give time to something that means something to you. So I think volunteering is a great thing to start doing in the lead up to wanting to make that move. I think, as with many other industries, having contacts is great. So whether it even is just picking out a few charities that you're really interested in, emailing a few people who sound like the kind of job that you want to move into, and just asking them for a coffee. And it's not to get a job, it's just to have a chat and understand more about why they work there, what it's like to work there, what kind of roles there are. and getting in and having that kind of first contact. People are very willing, it's quite surprising, to have a coffee with you when they don't know you if you send them an email over LinkedIn. People love to talk about themselves. So if you offer to go to them, buy them a coffee and ask them all about themselves, it's quite surprising how many people will say yes to that. And that really gives you an entrance in to the contacts, to the network, and to start understanding more about the industry if it's something that's new to you. There's also all sorts of networking drinks and things like that that can just mean that you might be in the right place at the right time and get your face a little bit known with the right types of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to be seen and to get known, and also having that authenticity come through, that it's not just a job that you're looking for, but this is really your purpose and your true passion. That would be
absolutely.
Really, I think people can see through those who are just looking for a job and those who are looking for really a true career path that's going to be very, very rewarding, such as yourself as well. So tell us, what happened after Clean Up Australia?
After Clean Up Australia, I got a really great job in community fundraising at Canteen, which is a youth cancer charity. And I worked there for about 2 years in the fundraising team, organising their community events, like people running City to Surf and other running events and things like that. And it was a really fantastic charity. The people there were so engaged with the cause, and the youth that they work with were really at the centre of it. I remember going to the pub after work on a Friday night with some friends, and I just couldn't shut up talking about how amazing this charity was. I really felt like I was in the right place, and it really meant something to me at that point. It was amazing. And it just was one of those places that you worked where ideas were really accepted. They really wanted you to think about how you could improve things and to come up with ideas and to really make things work. And it was a really interesting place to work because the programs team were working with teenagers who had cancer or someone in their family had cancer. So they were often extremely sad and confronting stories that we heard every day, and everyone got really close to those teenagers as well. You quite often saw them in the office. And so to balance that sense of kind of intensity of the work, it was also a really fun place to work because I think it needed that lightness as well as that heaviness. And so it was a really wonderful place to work. I've got some really good friends who I'm still in contact now with from there. And yeah, it was a really wonderful place to work. So I was there for about 2 years. And then I decided to go and see a bit more of the world, and then did some traveling for a few months. And that's something that's really important to me. So I wanted to take the time to do that before looking for a new role. And I came back and got a really great job at Caritas, which is an international aid and development charity. So I was running their very big annual fundraising campaign that happens around Easter every year. And it was a huge job. It was definitely a challenge, and that's something that I really wanted to do at that point, which was to take that next step up and to manage someone and to really do a big meaty project. And as you mentioned about it earlier, it meant that I got to go overseas 3 times to visit some of the fantastic programs that they have, to visit some of those communities and to capture some of the stories of the people who've gone through the programs and the work that they do overseas, which was a real honour to be able to go and do that and to really spend time with some of the recipients of the fundraising money that I was helping to get and see the work that the charity did firsthand. I think that's something that when you work for a non-for-profit, it's something you probably assume that you'll be able to get to do, but you don't necessarily always. But often you are just sat in an office, maybe feeling a little bit disconnected from the cause that you're working for. So it was incredible each year. I always said it was the best and the worst bit of the job because it was always a very stressful and hectic trip, but at the same time it was very rewarding and really amazing now looking back on those documentary films that we made. I'm really proud of the work that the team that I work with on those did. Really wonderful to have those to be able to show to the donors and the people fundraising for the charity exactly what the work that we were doing and what they were fundraising was all for.
You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to put the links to some of the work that you did at Caritas on my show notes as well, because I'm sure people would be really interested to have a look at what you actually did. You know, with all your travels and the people that you must have met some people who just inspired you tremendously. Is there anyone who really stands out to you during your work at Caritas?
I think there's probably one which has had quite an impact on me, actually. And you mentioned before, I've just finished a sustainability and leadership course. And I think actually one of those visits was the impetus to all of that part of me, really. really sparking. I was talking to my mum about it when I was in the UK recently, and she said it was something that I was always interested in. I was always the one that was thinking about recycling and interested in where things came from and how things worked. But I went to Fiji a few years ago for one of those documentary trips, and we met an amazing family on a very remote island in Fiji. They had a farm which was at their home, and everything that they grew was pretty much just for them. They sold a little bit, but it was really sustaining the food for their family. And then some of it was then bringing income. And the program that they'd done through Caritas was learning better farming skills and better ways of growing their crops and growing their food for their family, and being able to then make enough to be able to sell and have some profits too. And we sat down for lunch and made this absolutely beautiful meal for us. And poor things, there were cameras in their faces all the time while they were doing this. And they said to us, 80% of the food that you're eating, we've grown just where we've been filming in the farm just here. The only stuff that we haven't is the rice and the oil, because we're not able to produce that. We have to buy that. But everything else we've produced ourselves. And we'd just seen these amazing organic techniques that they had, where they were using the waste from the animals and the waste from coconut shells and things to make compost. And you could really see that cycle of the farm. It was really incredible. And it just made me stop and think, wow, I go to the shops every day. I don't grow anything myself. I'm totally relying on other people. I don't know where my food comes from. They hadn't had a water source for months, and said they were collecting all their water in rain tanks because there'd been some problems with the local government and the water supply. And so they were really careful about how they were using their water. And every single resource that they had was really carefully looked after. And it just made me suddenly really conscious of my impact on the world in the small things that I do. And I came back and have really implemented as many things as I feel that I can in my house. And I'm always thinking about what more can I do to have a lesser impact on the environment and to think about what I'm doing.
Yeah. You know, it's so important to actually travel and to see different cultures and to see how other people live their lives as well, because being in a first world country, we become so complacent, don't we? And some of the things that we complain about, you can take a step back and think, oh, for goodness sake, we really have so much to be grateful for. And seeing things firsthand, as you have done and I've done as well, it really makes you realize how lucky we are. And we mustn't take everything for granted. So I guess that with the work that you've done, it must have made you do an awful lot of soul searching as well, and as well as being so very, very rewarding.
Definitely. And yeah, I think just that contrast of life, it can be confronting both when you're there and then when you come home. The first trip that I did was probably the biggest in terms of that. I was in the favelas in Brazil, which is the local name for the slums over there. And it was scary. There were drug dealers, there were guns, there was always safety very much at the top of our heads all of the time. And it was a very stressful trip. And I came home and realised, well, that's okay. I can come back to Australia and get back to normal life. But that's their reality every single day. They're putting up with that potential for being killed and that potential for their lives being completely disrupted by what's going on around them. It was very confronting and definitely made me great for life back here, but also really want to help those communities as well.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic life lessons, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so now, what prompted your move away from Caritas and the brilliant work that you're doing there into this new direction of career coaching?
Well, I guess I realised that in the non-for-profit sector, I'd really found an area that I was really passionate about, as you can probably tell as I'm talking about it. But I never found quite the right role for me. I guess I knew that I was doing I hoped, good work and it was having an impact, but it never felt like it was 100% me. I've always used the phrase square peg in a round hole and just not quite feeling like it was perfectly aligned with me. So I went travelling at the end of last year and very much did some soul searching. I did an amazing course called Be the Change Journey in India, which was very much the start of me thinking about what I wanted to do next. And that program involved going to visit lots of for-purpose organisations in India and just starting to think about what you wanted to do next to have an impact in the world. I actually partly went on that trip and that course to look at what the facilitators of the course were doing, because I'd always had this little thing in my mind around, it would be really interesting to be a career coach and to help other people. I guess I have always struggled to work out what I wanted to do with my career. I didn't know what I wanted to do at university, and then finished university and had a really stressful time deciding what job to do next. And It's always felt like my holy grail of something that I've wanted to work out in life. And I guess I wanted to take that and help other people to have a less stressful time figuring out what job they want to do. And one of the things that came out of the trip in India was that I'm really interested in psychology. I'm really interested in what makes people tick. And I really wanted to help people. And it seemed I spent a good few months working part-time and spending time thinking about what career I wanted to do, having lots of conversations, doing courses and really investigating. And it all really came back together and pointed towards career coaching because of the experience that I've had and the wanting to really help other people to not have such an awful time looking for a career that's right for them, but also my interest in psychology really pointed back to doing this. So it's been a bit of a crazy year of all sorts of things happening in life and all of this coming together. And I finally feel like I am actually in the right place. It's quite incredible having never quite felt like I was in the right role to now sit here and think, wow, I actually feel like I am in the right place. And I really feel like I can make a difference. And I really feel like I can help people both through the experience that I've had in changing career, but also from the coaching course that I've done. And as you mentioned, the Firework career change course that I did recently, which has some really amazing exercises and tools to help people unpack more about themselves. I very much think that to change career, if you use the square peg and round hole metaphor, if you felt like a square peg in a round hole in your job, you need to figure out what shape you are to figure out what shape job you need to be. So you actually need to spend some time looking more at yourself, understanding your values, your motivations, your skills, your strengths, and all the kind of nuts and bolts of you before you can then start thinking about what next. And I find it fascinating going through that process with people. It's a real honor to be part of that bit of their lives and that journey and that what can be a really stressful thing happening. It's a real honor to be let into all sorts of areas of someone's life that they probably don't share with that many people or they don't even think about themselves. It's really amazing to take people through that process and really rewarding to see them suddenly having these insights and these light bulb little moments to go towards moving into a career that's going to be a much better fit for them.
You know what, just listening to you talking just makes me feel very excited as well, because you're absolutely right. When you're coaching someone, and I feel this so often myself as well, when they suddenly have that aha moment and the penny drops as to, I think I know what I want to do, it makes such a difference. And that's why I do what I do. It's just so exciting. And 16 years ago, a long, long time ago, when I first transitioned into career coaching myself, this is what I found. And I think this is what you're finding too, was that, I'm home. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then suddenly it doesn't feel like work anymore. And, you know, when you really, really know that you found your purpose, you found your passion, you're following your career anchor, you know exactly what you're doing, suddenly everything just falls into place. And you start to notice what's right about what you're doing. And then more opportunities start to come to you as well. So I think exactly right, what you said, doing the research, finding more about yourself as well as what all the options are, and then doing a lot of soul searching, and then understanding what your true career anchor is. And yours is obviously dedication to a cause or service. And I mean, that's mine as well. You've got to make a difference in someone's life. And so I'm really excited for you. Now you're on this wonderful trajectory. So you've set up your coaching business. Tell us about your coaching business, Jo.
Sure. So it's very simply called Jo Green Coaching. And so I did my coaching training in March, and I've just gone over to the UK to do some more training, particularly in career change. So I work with people who want to make a career change and absolutely wipe the slate clean on what they're doing at the moment and think about a complete change, which for lots of people can seem like a very intimidating thing to do. So there's lots of work around the barriers that are stopping someone from changing career. And as I just mentioned, a lot of thinking about what makes them tick and what interests them in a career, and starting to come up with ideas and explore different areas around career and really come up with an action plan of how they're going to make that career change. I also work with people who want to make, I guess, in a sense, a smaller move. So it might be a sideways move. They might want to stay in the same industry, but not quite the same role, or do a similar role in a different industry. Or it might be that they've already got an idea of what career it is that they want to do. They just haven't quite figured out the steps, or they just need someone to support them and hold them accountable for making that step, because it can be quite hard making a career change in whatever circumstances, because your family might not necessarily 100% understand what you're doing. Your friends probably don't want to talk to you for very long about it because they want to talk about what's going on at the weekend or something instead. You can't talk to your colleagues because you're going to leave your job. And so sometimes being as a coach, it is just being someone that someone can come to and talk through things and really explore what's going on and work out the best thing to do next. So I really love working with people who want to do work that is more meaningful for them. I had a real think about my business to begin with and realized that, Jane, when I was doing my career coaching with you, I came to you and said, I want to do something that makes a difference. And I didn't know what it was at that point. And I didn't want to niche my company just to people who want to move into the not-for-profit sector, even though that's obviously a real area of interest for me, because you can have a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning through all sorts of different jobs. It doesn't have to be working as a doctor or working in service in some way or working for a charity. It can be that you feel that there's a great sense of meaning through those IT systems that you create that really help support people in an organization or something like that. So I really want to help people just to have that smoother transition from a job that they're sitting in and thinking, I really don't want to do this anymore, and having that real sense of being stuck and really not sure even where to start, and take them through to being excited about work again and looking towards a career that's going to be a much better fit.
Wonderful work. And, actually through career coaching as well, what's so important is that the person being coached can be guaranteed of total confidentiality. And so knowing that you can talk to someone in a safe place, knowing that there's no judgment and you can just absolutely be yourself and lay it all out there, put all the pieces out there and mix and match and have a really good coaching conversation. That's where the clarity comes from too, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people just say, wow, I've never actually sat down and thought about this before, or I've never actually spent the time to sit and think about this. And because you've got that coaching session and as a coach, you're holding that safe space for them, they have the time and the support to be able to go through something which might sometimes feel a bit confronting or feel a bit uncomfortable to do, but because you're in it together and you're very much supporting them to think and explore about that thing, it can be really powerful.
Your passion comes through so strongly, Jo. I mean, it's just really exciting. And you know what? The world is a better place for having another coach like you. It's fantastic because, I mean, over the years, and you've been such a wonderful support to me as well. I remember when you came to my book launch and, it was navigating career crossroads, and you've navigated many career crossroads yourself. And so Jo Green Coaching, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all of your contact details in my show notes. But your website is, you tell us your website and all your contact details.
It's jogreencoaching.com, and so my email is jo@jogreencoaching.com, and I share lots of tips and inspiration and bits of things around career change and interview tips and stuff on my Facebook page, which is Jo Green Coaching as well. It's all very simple.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have all of those links on my show notes on janejacksoncoach.com, and it is such a pleasure to have followed your career path over the years, Jo. I know you're destined for bigger and greater things as time goes on as well, and you're going to make such a great difference in so many people's lives as they explore their true career direction as well. So thank you so much for your time. It's always lovely talking to you, and I'm following your career progress with great interest.
Thank you, Jo. Well, thanks for being such a wonderful support from 7 years ago all the way through to today. It's really lovely having your support, and now your understanding and your tips on coaching as well. It's wonderful. Thank you.
No, I've enjoyed following your career progress. So we'll have you back on the show again, let's say in about 6 to 8 months' time, and you can tell us how the business is growing.
That would be excellent. Thank you.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Jane. Bye.
Today's podcast is brought to you by audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and free 30-day trial at audibletrial.com/Jane Jackson Careers. There are over 180,000 book titles to choose, so give it a go and get your free audiobook today from audibletrial.com/Jane Jackson Careers.
You've been listening to Jane Jackson Careers. Sign up to receive regular career advice at janejackson.